Get over here!
But yeah, like, what I really want from a next Fire Emblem game, whenever and however that happens, is I just want a big title with some good, compelling, nuanced writing. Maybe some of that political intrigue from Shadows of Valencia, you know? Because, like, that was some good stuff, too!
Yeah. Shadows of Valencia had really, like, did some great things for the story and presenting it.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel a little bit like some of the characters they added that, like, weren't in the original guide. Well, I could get into the weeds of, like, little things that I think don't work about it, but for the most part, yeah. I think they did a great job with the story.
Funnily enough, I think the worst thing about Fire Emblem Shadows of Valencia is the fact that you have to play the darn thing. Like, I'm sorry, that game is not fun.
Yeah.
Like, it is a slog to get through, and it is a source of some serious bullshit.
It feels like you're playing an experimental NES game, which is what it is.
Exactly. Which, like, again, like, kind of makes me mad, because they could have totally revamped things, they just didn't. It's a faithful remake of the original Gaiden to a fault.
Yeah.
And that's a darn shame, because I like a lot of the ideas in Fire Emblem Shadows of Valencia.
I can get behind it sometimes of, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna, like, really, like, grind my teeth on this game that is not fair, and I need to use crappy tactics to beat this crappy game.
Dude, that is like, you're preaching to the choir on that one, because I went through the bullshit of Thracia 776. Do not get me started on some of the crap that game throws at you.
Like,
it's actually kind of absurd.
This year, I've been playing through the Metal Gear Solid collection. So for the first time, I played the original Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake.
Metal Gear.
And what is kind of fun about those games is, like, having to, like, there's a lot of times where you'll be caught by something and, like, oh my god, that's bullshit, but, like, alright, I'm gonna do my own bullshit then.
Yep, pretty much. Like, there is no feasible way, like, in regards to Thracia 776, anyone who's played that game knows the chapter I'm talking about, and that's the two bridges. That chapter is so unbelievably bullshit, especially if you want to get everything possible you can from that chapter, because that chapter in particular pits you with, like, a very, very monstrous set of enemies that you gotta deal with, particularly like the ballisticians that you have to, like, sort out as you're going through the as you're, like, trying to cross the bridges and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the other problem is that, like, a lot of the units in that chapter are so unbelievably beefed up that it's actually entirely possible that your unit is that your units and your army is under-leveled to the point where it's almost impossible to even beat it. You can potentially softlock yourself on that chapter. And on top of all that, if you want to get everything in that chapter, not only do you have to deal with Sayas, who's, like, one of the most dangerous units in the game, you have to deal with Reinhardt. And one of the things you gotta do with Reinhardt is have Olwyn talk to him, while he's in the middle of a myriad of generals and paladins just waiting to murder you.
Yeah.
And Olwyn is, like, one of the weakest characters in the entire game. And what do you get for this? You actually get a really, really good reward, because not only do you get some additional rewards for talking to Reinhardt, if you manage to beat him, or if you actually manage to get Olwyn to talk to him, you get the Meisterschwert, which is, like, one of the best weapons in the game, bar none.
Doesn't that make it even worse, though, that, like, there is something legitimately good for it, so, like, you can't just ignore it? You're like, God dang it, I want that.
Yeah, like, if y'all thought that, like, if y'all thought that the Master Knight level Meisterbogen was really good in Thracia, Meisterschwert is basically, like, it's basically Rognell on steroids by Thracia standards. Just let that sink in.
I've never actually played, except for Binding Blade, I played some, but besides that, I haven't played any of the Fire Emblem games that, like, were not localized. So
yeah.
I've never actually played Thracia or Genealogy.
I am going to say, like, I would be curious to see your reaction to some of the crap that you have to go through in Thracia 776. There's this one character, I don't remember his name, but it's a certain recruitment mission. For those who may know, the prison chapter. There is a chapter where you have to infiltrate a prison and free a bunch of prisoners to get them out of there. However, you have to be able to free them while also keeping the boss alive, and the boss is recruitable. It is one of the worst, the absolute worst recruitment requirements in Fire Emblem history. I don't remember his name, but that chapter was bullshit.
I've heard horror stories about that. That's another thing I'd like for a future Fire Emblem game. I'd like us to get back to ballistas. Like, I think we've kind of lost the plot with how ballistas and catapults work in these games, and I'd like to get us back on track.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all.
I think they were good obstacles that, you know, could they be overused in some games? Yeah, they do technically slow things down, but, like, I don't know. Something went wrong with the mechanics of how ballistas work.
Yeah.
They're not fun anymore. It should be fun to get up to one and overtake it.
They did that in Thracia. Believe me, they did that in Thracia. But the problem with Thracia 776 is that the ballistas were too strong in Thracia.
Is the character you're thinking of Xavier?
It is Xavier. Mm-hmm. Yep, thank you for reminding me.
I'm looking at a list right now on Game Rant. It's 10 hardest characters to recruit in Fire Emblem history.
Oh, please, like, tell me this list. I would like to.
Yeah.
I would like to know.
So, commenters, let me know what you think about this. This is on GameRant.com. I'm going to credit the author Paul DeSalvo. Thank you, Paul DeSalvo. We are mining your writing here. So, number 10, they put Shinan, specifically in Path of Radiance.
I can agree to this, because it is not entirely obvious that you gotta talk to him with Rolf, and that's assuming you even trained up Rolf.
Yeah.
And then you have to know to beat him with Ike. That is actually legit tough, so it's a little abstract. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's tough to figure out.
Number 9 is Jafar, particularly in Hector hard mode.
I can agree to that. Like, keeping him safe and, like, getting Nino to him in Hector hard mode specifically, I went through that. I went through that crap, and it was tough. It was very tough.
Number 8 is Peleus from Radiant Dawn. I think specifically because it has to be on a second playthrough.
Yeah, that's kind of a thing. Peleus is kind of hard to recruit anyway.
Yeah, that's an asterisk one. Like, technically it's true.
Yeah, but, like, it's one of those things where it's like, you'll get him if you do the second playthrough and, like, play your cards right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's not hard to figure out what you have to do.
If you're playing a second playthrough, you kind of can't miss it.
Exactly.
This one I agree with. Number 7 is Carla from Blazing Blade.
From
Blazing Sword.
You have to get Barter to fight her and
What
survive.
if I don't want to use Barter?
Not only do you not have to use do you have to use Barter, who, by the way, like, his stats are, like, not the greatest.
Yeah.
Barter has to not only, because, like, it's a balancing act, right? You can't have him too weak to or else he'll die to Carla. But you also can't make him too strong because you don't want him to accidentally kill Carla.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely one I agree with. Man, we kind of just, like, turtled up in this area. Dude, thank you for suggesting we bring Gilliam.
Yeah, no problem.
That's pretty much the crux here.
So, I want to remind everybody this is floor 1 of 10.
Yeah, these are going to be long. What I'm probably going to do is, like, I'm probably going to name the videos, like, bonus Lagdou Ruins Floor 1,
yeah,
or Lagdou Ruins 1, Lagdou Ruins 2, and whatnot, you know? Because, like, this is going to take a while.
Yeah.
So, after Carla.
Number 6 is Douglas from Fire Emblem The Binding Blade.
Oh, I remember him.
A general that appears as an enemy in Chapter 16. Rather than talk to Douglas like many other conventional recruitments, Douglas is recruited into the player's army at the end of the chapter as long as he survived.
Yes. It's one of those things where it's like, I remember when I first played through Binding Blade, I actually did not recruit Douglas. I was not aware that you could.
And he likes to seek you out. He's a chaser boss. So.
Exactly. So the idea to get Douglas is you have to complete the chapter without killing him. And that tends to be tough because as soon as you get into his range, he's coming after you. So yeah, I can agree with Douglas.
Number 5 is Ymir.
Oh, Emir.
Yeah, who, one is in a guiding chapter. He's in a chapter 20X.
Mm-hmm.
This is... I'm trying to remind myself of this guy. This is because the chapter only is available to players who completed Chapter 20 while having 15 or fewer units in the army.
Yes.
This essentially means that the player must have let a massive portion of their other units die just to access this chapter.
Pretty much.
So
or not recruit people.
Yeah, if you got Ymir, it's because you're doing a bad job.
Essentially, which... I don't remember what Emir's stats are supposed to be. I don't even know if it's worth it. Typically, from what I'm to understand, it's not.
Oh, number 4, I didn't think about this one, but it's true. Nasir from Path of Radiance.
Oh,
because
yeah!
you have to beat the Black Knight in that, at the end of that one chapter.
That's true, actually. Like, that one's more of a thing where it's like, that one's easy to do by accident. Because, like, you're kind of, like, trying to beat the Black Knight anyway. So when you do, you eventually come to realize, oh, hey, Nasir's joined my army.
Yeah.
Cool! Instead of Aina. So, yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's not hard to figure out, or rather, it's one of those things that's really easy to do accidentally, if you're just playing the game normally. So I don't know if I agree with that one entirely, but the Black Knight is hard.
Yeah.
The Black Knight is hard, so I can agree to that.
And I mean, personally, my first time playing Path of Radiance, I was, like, not willing to risk a chapter's progress on beating the Black Knight.
That is actually fair, because you do go into it right after the chapter prior, and this is assuming you're preparing yourself, because you actually do have to, like, be mindful of how you go about it.
Yeah. Number 3 is Laron from Radiant Dawn, so that's a similar situation to Peleus, just you don't get him till the end of the second run.
Yes.
Oh, and also there's, like, all the stuff of, like, I cast to engage the Black Knight. We have to, like... Yeah.
Yeah, like, the hardest part is not recruiting the Seer. It's preparing Ike to fight the Black Knight.
Number 2, I disagree with him being this high, is Stefan from Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. I don't think he's...
Stefan is not hard. He's obscure.
He's obscure. You have to know what you're doing.
There is a difference. Once you know what you gotta do in order to get Nasir, it's piss easy.
To me, that's a lot easier than getting Ymir or getting...
Yes, very.
Douglas.
I completely agree.
I'd even say, like, Legault and Rennick and characters who, like, you have to recruit that run off the board are harder.
Yeah, so I don't entirely agree with that either. Like, I get that Stefan is hard to figure out, but we're in the age of the internet. You look it up and you know. And once you do that, like, the execution is very easy.
Yeah. Like, I'd even say, without the internet, some of the people on this list is harder than stuff. Well, no. It is a specific square with a specific character, I get that.
Which, at the same time, kind of in the similar vein to the Black Knight, is easy to do by accident.
Yeah.
Like, you just happen to, like, wait there on that square while you're going around that area, and suddenly this swordsman from the sands of the desert comes around, and you're like, oh, who the fuck is this?
I'm pretty sure there's something that gives you a clue about it, too.
I would not be surprised. I would not put it past Radiant Dawn to be like, hey, you guys remember these information conversations?
I think in the base conversations, there's something that tells you what square to stand on.
Exactly.
Obscure, not difficult when you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then number 1, again, is Xavier from Thracia 776.
So, go ahead and read that. Like, just look at what you have to do in order to recruit goddamn Xavier.
Xavier is a general from Fire Emblem Thracia 776 with abysmal recruitment requirements. In order to recruit Xavier, the player must speak with him with Leaf. However, this can only be done after numerous NPCs speak to designated enemy Axe Knights. This requires several NPCs to not just survive, but act intelligently and dodge several attacks. This recruitment is both AI and RNG dependent, giving it all the same problems as Jafar's recruitment, but on a much larger scale.
Pretty much. So the whole, like, those prisoners thing that I was talking about, that whole spiel. And not only is that an obscure solution, it is bar none impossible to pull off.
What sucked about like Rennick on this run or Legault when we played Blazing Sword, both of those characters escaped during our Let's Plays.
Yeah.
And that was also because it was kind of down to an NPC doing what we needed them to, and they didn't.
Yeah, if you're going through a game and part of the requirement for you to like get everything is an NPC has to do the thing right, you got your work cut out for you.
Yeah. Which, I mean, we could have been faster to get those characters, and the problem was we're playing an Iron Man, so we didn't have the luxury of knowing we could restart the chapter if we were too hasty.
Even without that context, you and I, like, a lot of people have mentioned this, and like it's being expressed in this chapter right here. We're very defensive tacticians when it comes to this game. Like, we like to turtle up and like have the units come to us. And a lot of the time, and like there were a lot of instances where that either almost or definitely bit us in the dust.
Yeah.
Or bit us in the butt.
Ow, my dust.
My bad.
I thought it was funny.
Why, thank you. I like to think I'm funny.
Time to burn some dust. Eat my rubber. It's from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that in a long-ass time.
That's that used to be one of our, like, yearly Christmas movies.
Alright, so yeah, we're kind of just, like, cruising along here. Mulder is just doing his best, but we're getting him there.
I'm doing my best. What level is Mulder up to now?
He is at level 7.
Oh.
So he's drawn a couple of levels at this point.
He was at level 5, yeah. Unfortunately, he is a
He is a cleric.
He is a cleric.
Clerics are notoriously slow to level.
Yeah. I would also like to see, though, probably the best thing they could do for a new Fire Emblem game is something that I haven't thought of. Because, like, Three Houses isn't my favorite Fire Emblem game, but it did a very different thing with its structure, and I liked it a lot. The school setting was a cool idea.
Yeah. Like, what I respect Three Houses for trying something different, and they managed to make it work.
Yeah.
Like, this is an example where the execution actually matched the intent. Were there a little hiccups with Three Houses? Yes. Like, it's not a perfect game. But I'm willing to say that it is definitely one of the best titles in the franchise, especially by today's standards.
Yeah. Like, I wonder sometimes if Three Houses would be a better game if you didn't get to choose which class you were in charge of, and if it was just one story and they could curate how you were going to get all the story beats better. But then you wouldn't get to choose your class, and you wouldn't have the same, emotional response to when all the kids show up 5 years later on the anniversary of the dance to help you.
The main thing for me, when it comes to that idea of, yeah, I'm not gonna chance things right now with a killer bow. But, what was I saying? Three Houses.
How it's...
I'm willing to say that it's like one of the best titles in the franchise because like a lot of what they did worked. Like, honestly, the only real issues I have with the game are narrative, and even then, like, it's a good narrative. It's just like it's a bit rough around the edges because they were trying something different. I don't give Fire Emblem Engage the same leeway because Engage played it remarkably safe.
Yeah.
And in my personal opinion, too safe.
I think they either... Silver Snow's gotta go.
Oh my god, yes, please. Or at the very least, just make it different.
They either need to cut that option or make it its own good campaign and not just die at Golden Deer.
Yeah. Which sucks, too, because, like, you want my personal opinion?
Yeah.
Silver Snow, easily the worst route in the game, right?
Yeah.
Funeral of Flowers, that last chapter, where you fight Rhea.
Yeah.
Amazing!
That's a good chapter.
It almost made going through Silver Snow worth it.
Also, like, yeah, like a route where, like, Sedith is your main guy. Like, I'm down with this, sure.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Like, Sedith is cool. I'd be down to have him as a tactician. Make him different from Claude.
Yeah.
Like, legit, though.
That's what really, like broke the glass for me on that playthrough, is when you're in that mission where you're, like, defending Garreg Mach after the time skip, and Sedith hatches the plan to, like, blow up everything and knock out a bunch of enemy units, which was the same as Claude's plan, and I was like, no, that makes sense when Claude suggests it. It's a payoff to a running gag, because Claude's always saying he's gonna do, like, cheap tactics, and he's always like, oh no, I'm just kidding, I'm not really gonna do that. And then he does it. It makes sense for Claude, and having said it also do it devalues it for Claude.
Yeah, you want to know what I think would have worked? Garreg Mach is basically a fortress, right?
Yeah.
Have Sedith be like, hey, we have some hidden runes and hidden, like, artifacts down below where the tomb was. They have some magical turrets that we can utilize around the walls of Garreg Mach.
Yeah.
Let's bring the enemy to us, and once they're in position, we use them to cover ourselves while our armies take care of the rest.
Yeah, what if, like Sedith, like, showed off a bunch of, like, hidden siege weaponry, or, like, you're dropping rocks down or something?
Show him what he was like as a saint.
Yeah.
Actually, though.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Like, we know for a fact that he, like, was a saint to Saros. What was his name? God, I don't remember. He was a big...
Flane was a Salis.
Yeah, something like that. Basically, he's big important guy.
Yeah. He was...
Show us why he was that big important guy.
He was one of the four.
Yeah, show us why he was that big important guy. You know?
Keyhole? Keyhole.
Yeah, Keyhole. Yeah, Saint Keyhole.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Three Houses and Three Hopes go out of their way to say that he was one of the greatest tacticians of his time.
Yeah.
Show that! You know?
I don't like that his plan and Claude's plan are the same.
Like, honestly, though.
Oh, and Flane was Sethline.
Yeah, Saint Sethline, you're right.
Because I remember, that's a fun thing during the second playthrough, where if you've, like, put it together when Sedith's first, like, giving you a tour of the place and, like, is showing you the statues, and he's like, my personal favorite is Saint Sethline.
Yeah.
It's like, aww.
Cute.
Oh, you talking about his sister.
Cute. And again,
or his daughter, actually, but...
Yeah. But again, that's its own narrative, which I also think is pretty cool.
That's also my favorite... One of my favorite ships in that game is, Flane and Ignis.
Yeah, because, like, Ignis is, like, painting Sethline, and Flane is like, oh no, like, if I recall correctly, I must make this clear. Yeah. I recall this. I read about it in a book.
Yeah.
Sethline was actually like this. She was this kind of person, and her favorite food was this. I read that. I swear.
And Ignis, like, paints Saint Sethline and makes her, like, really beautiful, and Flane's like blushing, and Ignis doesn't know why. It's just like, I guess she just really likes the painting.
Like, I love that. Like, that is a cool interaction. But yeah, like, was Three Houses a perfect game? Not by any stretch. No game is perfect. Is it the best Fire Emblem game out there? I don't think so. Is it up there as one of the best? I would say so. I think it did I think it did enough right to warrant that.
I think what ultimately saves Three Houses for me is that I really like world building and I really like lore, and it's really good at both of those things.
Absolutely, absolutely. The
Engage
game
doesn't have lore. It is loreless.
You have not obtained the lore.
It doesn't have world building. The world's a donut.
It literally is.
Welcome to Donut World. We have 4 equally sized countries.
Fire Emblem Fates is like a overdone bonbon. Like, the chocolate's a little burnt, but the caramel inside, which is the gameplay, fan-fucking-tastic. Awakening is like a really, really nice hors d'oeuvre that you get, like, at a fancy restaurant. It's like the start to what's going to be a new smorgasbord of, like, Fire Emblem games. A lot of Fire Emblem dishes that are going to be new, and we're going to showcase that with Awakening, which is like this very nice like. It's like bread. It's like bread and cheese.
Yeah.
And like maybe a little bit of like sliced salmon in there. Fire Emblem Three Houses is a very like. How am I gonna say Three Houses? You know what Three Houses is? Three Houses is like paella. A little bit of everything. A little bit of everything mixed in all together.
Yeah.
There's like multiple ways to go about it. You can eat it however you want. You can eat it with tortilla chips. You can eat it with a spoon. You can eat it with the golden deer. You can eat it with the crimson flower. You can make it spicy. You can make it mild.
There's like a part of the paella that has like beets in it, and you're like, why did you put beets in it? Okay, I guess I'll just not eat that part. That's weird that you did that.
Yeah. Fire Emblem Engage is a stale donut. That's the dessert that just didn't come through.
But like, they put really bright frosting and sprinkles on it.
Oh yeah, like it is a very, very beautiful donut. Like this thing is decorated like crazy.
So great.
Unfortunately, it's been sitting out for a little too long.
Yeah,
and it's stale.
Feels a little stale.
I'm suddenly reminded of that one video by Maximilian.
You know, and if you take all the emblems that are in the game, how many emblems do you get if you include a leer at the end? It's a baker's dozen.
Oh my god! Yeah, it's literally just a bunch of stale donuts. Very, very good designer-looking donuts, but the delivery was delayed on these.
I remember loving these kinds of donuts, but now they're all like, they're not as good. And, ever since Dunkin' got all corporatized, I feel like the heart is gone from these donuts.
Oh man. Now I want to. Man, this got me wanting to go through the Fire Emblem Spices of Life now.
And you like go talk to the CEO, like, what's wrong with your donuts? And they're like, oh well, actually our business model is mostly about the coffee, and the coffee is Fire Emblem Heroes.
I mean, yeah, Fire Emblem Heroes would be coffee.
Yep.
It's like you get up in the morning and you're like, oh, gotta do my dailies, so like fire up Fire Emblem Heroes. Wake yourself up while you're sitting in bed enjoying a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Like, that is your start to your day, and then after that, you're pretty much good and you're not gonna touch it until the next morning.
Theoretically, it's really cheap, like coffee beans are cheap, water is practically free, cream, whatever, but somehow you realize you like spent $5 on it this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Because you went to Starbucks. Like, oh, I could like have this for practically nothing, but I guess I'll spend money on it for it to be a little more convenient.
I can't believe how accurate that is.
Oscar, we nailed this.
Oh my god!
This is a great metaphor.
Oh man, I'm gonna remember this one.
This is at least a meta 5.
Dude, I gotta tell Blazing Knight about this. Like, he is going to love this conversation. Oh man, if we were to compare the rest of the Fire Emblem games to food, oh geez, how would we go about that? Freaking like, this is a conversation we'd have to think about throughout an entire episode, I swear. But, like, that being said, we pretty much went through the entirety of, like, this is, like, current generation pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? If Three Houses is a paella, Three Hopes is, like, a really, really good burrito. Like, it is a burrito. There's a lot of things mixed in there. Like, just like a good paella, but it's kind of like boiled down, or rather cooked down, to something a little more simple, something a little more repetitive, something that's very, very common, which is like, the repetitive nature of a Musou game. But there's still plenty to chew on. There's still plenty of ways to make a burrito, but you're still having, for all intents and purposes, a burrito.
The only problem with this burrito is, a lot of times with a good burrito, like, after they wrapped it, like, the tortilla kind of stays together. In this case, like, the tortilla is, like, a little loose on top. Like, you need to be good with your hands to handle this burrito. There is, like, a skill issue with it that isn't...
Yeah. So, still
or it's gonna fall apart on you.
Still a good burrito, just, not quite, It
is a more active eating experience than the paella.
Yeah, not quite the same quality of, like, Latin American cuisine as you would get from something out of, like, a paella.
Yeah.
Still good, but, do I want to eat it all the time? Not really, but when I do eat it, it's good. It's very filling. I enjoy my time with Fire Emblem Three Hopes.
I think like Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, I think, are stakes.
I was thinking stakes for those two games too, because like you can't really deviate with those games in any way, shape, or form. You're playing that game. You're experiencing this story. There's not a lot of...
There's no A1 steak sauce on the table.
Yeah.
The chef doesn't want you to have that.
Mm-hmm. Like Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, like, I'm just gonna say right now, and I'm gonna call you out on this one a little bit here, right?
Yeah.
In a similar vein to how Max described Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Street Fighter Third Strike as, like, a steak, like a really well-done steak, when people like these games, they like that thing. They like this very, very focused thing, and it's this way, and it's, like, prepared this specific way, and if it's any other way, it's wrong. And like that's
people are very opinionated about how their steak is cooked.
Yeah, and that's Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. When like fans of Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn love that game. They love those games. They love that world of Fire Emblem. And what is there is very, very well prepared. It's very well done. It's very well cooked. A couple of burnt like patches here and there, or maybe like a little bit too much red in like one area or another. But you're still getting some really good steaks.
What's really funny about the Radiant Dawn steak is that if you ask for it medium rare is the Japanese well done. And you might just end up with like a really burnt steak that you weren't expecting.
Yes, a little too well done. Oh my god, absolutely. Absolutely. In a similar vein, if I may say, right? Mm-hmm. Fire Emblem Blazing Sword is like a roast turkey. Mm-hmm. Also something that's very focused. It's prepared a very certain way. When you're playing this game, when you're making turkey, you're getting this thing. But it has a couple of things that can be garnished with it, you know? You got, like, you can either get your Gites or your Wallaces. You can have your turkey with rice or with greens, or, like, collard greens. You can have it with, like, maybe some mashed potatoes. Or, like, a little bit of gravy. Like, you can stuff it with different things. But at the end of the day, it's still a roast turkey.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what Blazing Sword is. It's a roast turkey, and it's very well made, and it's very well cooked.
I think Fire Emblem Awakening is when insists the steaks were too expensive, people weren't really going in on them, and they said, okay, we need to make some money. This is a burger chain now. And Fire Emblem Awakening is a hamburger. And I think they added a lot of like, hey, we were too like restrictive with like what sauces or what we let you put on the steak. So now there's a whole bunch of different condiments that are offered to you. Mm-hmm. The chain has like a mascot, and there's a lot of like personality to it now that wasn't really there before. You know, the restaurant is nicer. It's a place where you can really talk.
I did compare Awakening to like appetizers before, but I think I kind of like this better.
Yeah.
It's like, and again, you can have your burger like in many different ways. Do you want a cheeseburger? Do you want a spicy burger? A Texas burger?
You can tell they
cheeseburger?
You can tell they source their beef and their cows from the same place as Radiant Dawn.
But there are many ways to enjoy it now. Do you want it with chips? Do you want it with fries?
Yeah.
Do you want it with coleslaw? Do you want it with Donald? Do you want to use Pan? Do you want to use Virion? And like the fries are like, oh, there's this like mission where you can get Donald. There's this like side mission for like the sauce where you can get Anna, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean like, you know, there's a like really spicy version of this burger. You know, they put their secret sauce on it, but like, if you don't want that spicy sauce, you just ask at the counter and they'll say, okay. They're not going to give you a hard time about it.
Yeah,
they're not here to judge you. This is your burger.
And by the way, that spice is Tharja.
Yeah.
And if you want really spicy, that's Henry.
And it was on the 3DS, so you can take it to go.
Oh my god!
Because the last two were on console. You can't take the steak to go. It's on console.
Oh my god. Okay, I love that. I love that a lot. Oh my god. Okay, that one got me. That one got me. How did we do this?
And I think Thracia is like lobster, but they don't give you any tools.
Oh, that would be miserable.
Yeah, I think that's what Thracia is.
Yeah, Thracia is like a really...
You're gonna ask yourself sometimes while like your hands are like punctured, you're gonna be like, is this worth it? Do I really want this lobster?
I'm gonna be honest with, like, I don't even know if I'd go with lobster, because, like, at least lobster is, like... I don't know if I'd use lobster as, like, the descriptor for something like Thracia, because I wouldn't say Thracia is as good as lobster.
Okay.
But
I'm like not a huge lobster guy, so I might have, like, a lower than usual
That's fair.
opinion of lobster.
Like, I guess, like, if you ask me, it would still be something desirable, but still hard to eat.
Do we want to do, like some kind of, like, mollusks, or, like...
I was gonna say escargot?
Yeah.
Like, escargot is, like, a very, very specific palate, and it's still kind of difficult to eat. Like, okay,
Yeah.
escargot if you didn't have the spoon to, like, fish out the meat from the shell.
Yeah.
That's yeah, I'm gonna go with Thracia for escargot.
Like, I tried to, like, just, like, put it up to my mouth and slurp it out, but, like, the shell is kind of sharp around the rim and cut my lip.
Yeah, and there's this one very, very, very notorious, like, escargot piece where, like, the meat is not coming out, like, it's all attached and undercooked, and, like, I just can't seem to get this to, like, enjoy the taste of it, and that's Xavier.
And you know, you can't get salty. If you get salty, it's gonna get worse, because you know how snails are with salt.
Speaking of salt, that took a while. So we're gonna go ahead and call it here for now. This is pretty much how we're going to be tackling the Lagdou ruins.
Yeah.
One floor at a time, going at it as we were. But I hope you guys are enjoying this as we tune in next time to continue the Fire Emblem Spices of Life.
Yeah, and
the Fire Emblem all-you-can-eat buffet.
Yep.
I say, you're describing your Fire Emblem games like an all-you-can-eat buffet, boy. It's like you're trying to eat them or something. Put them on a sandwich with a bunch of rye toast. That rye toast are the first and the last game. That's Shadow Dragon and Engage, my friend. You gotta learn to appreciate your Fire Emblem. You gotta learn to appreciate your food. Savor the taste, boy.
My son, don't you put that Switch cartridge in your mouth. They put Embitter in that, boy.
I hate the fact that I did that for a stream once.
I feel like everybody who finds out about the embitterant immediately goes and tastes a Switch cartridge.
Fun fact, that was my first time, and it was because Gino dared me.
Well, I think it's an experience everybody has to have.
Fair enough.